All right, thank you so much. I look forward to class.
So hi, I'm Lara, and I'm from Seattle. And yes, it is raining this weekend. In fact, I was telling Lisa earlier, it's a good thing that we're having this today because we are supposed to get some crazy like windstorm, might knock over a lawn chair, or it might be catastrophic. So I'm glad I have internet for you this morning. Today's class will need 2 blocks. I call it a block party because it's kind of a little bit more of a celebration of the body using blocks versus kind of the mentality that this is for modifications or necessarily for beginners. For a long time, you know, in yoga, there might have been some of the vernacular used like, and if you need to modify, grab a block, but blocks can actually, you know, amplify our practice in so many ways. So we're going to experience that. And just a quick one, my donation link is, I'm a longtime student of yoga medicine. I've been studying with Tiffany Cruikshank since 2014. Started my 500 back then with her, now in the 1,000. And it is for a really strong fun event, like 4 or 5 years now, that goes to the survivors of human trafficking in India and helping to educate, stabilize, and promote not only the livelihood of these women who are survivors of it, but it can even lift entire families out of poverty when they're able to get gainful employment. So it's a really great fund, and Tiffany releases lines periodically with Kira Grace with proceeds going to the Seva Fund. So it's kind of like Kira Grace and yoga medicine and Seva are all very, very connected. All right, so we're going to start with a couple of blocks. And don't lose me here. We're gonna be in kind of a shavasana at first, so don't get too comfortable. But we're gonna start with 1 block right around the shoulder blades, so kind of right around the bra strap. And you may need to move your block a little bit, you know, up or down, just to accommodate the size of your rib cage, your thoracic region. But I'm going to start with the block right around the shoulder blades and another block behind you. So you can turn the block behind you up a level, or you can turn it down if it gives you too much flexion of the neck. And then you're going to have your knees bent and your arms can either be out to the side in a soft kind of T. You can have your arms by your side. If you want to goalpost your arms, that might be a little intense, but I just want us to start with a little bit of a chest opener. And I do want you to feel that your pelvis can hammock and anchor down. So you've got some space at your lumbar spine, but I don't want it to be so much that there's strain. And then just soften your breath. We won't go into anything vigorous right now. Just be kind of in that introduction to observing our breath. And then anytime that these blocks just cannot support you in a way that is comfortable, if it is support, then it's also that amplification of, you know, getting us some more mobility around our ribs, but move things completely at any time that just does not work for you. So we're going to lie back for about another minute, or maybe that's nice 10 breaths, a nice long steady, more casual long breath versus and ujjayi. Just trying to be a little bit more in an integration, but still somewhat effortless. Finish the last few breaths, maybe see if you can soften somewhere else. Could be the face, could be the hands, could be the feet, some of the peripheral parts of our body. Then to come out of this, we'll obviously need to be a little bit more organized. So take one hand, just kind of lift your head up, and then you'll move one block off to each side of the mat, so they're nice and handy. And then I want you to come onto your back with your knees and towards your chest, just rock a little bit side to side. Then take your hands onto each knee and take your knees out and in. So add some knee circles, out and in. And then reverse the direction. So it doesn't matter if you're clockwise or counterclockwise. Yogi, just do both. And then I want you to just kind of go for it, a little free for all. Just moving deep in the hip socket. Feeling the head of the femur just spin in its home. Okay, we're gonna start with a little bit of core work. So let's grab one of your blocks. Now I want you to place it in between your feet, landscape setting. So just depending on, I guess, the security you have in your feet, whether or not you have the block, more lined up or in between the arches of the feet, more hugged in. That's really up to you. You're gonna start with your knees bent, and we're gonna make sure that we draw in the pelvic floor and the navel towards spine, Uddiyana and Mula Bandha. And you can interlace your fingers at the base of your skull, and you can lift your head up if your neck feels supported. Otherwise, arms can be by your side. And just resting your head down. So we'll bring the knees to a 90-degree bend. And again, you're gonna lift the shoulders, lift them down, see if you can shut off the neck so it's supported. And we're just gonna tap the block to the floor. So just tap the block to the floor, and then bring your knees back to 90. Then tap the floor. Back to 90. So just keep going. I'm not even going to count right now. It's a little bit more for just time. I want to make sure that you feel your navel pulling towards your spine, Uddiyana Bandha, and your low back broadens across the mat. As soon as it arches, you want to try and release somewhere so that we're not straining lumbar spine. Little toe taps with block to the floor. Or heel taps. And we'll do this for like another, how much longer do we have? 55 minutes? I'm kidding. We'll just do it for 5 more seconds. 3, 2, and 1. Grab your block, set it underneath your sacrum. For supported bridge pose, think of bridge as just more of your counter. Block can be at its second height or its lowest setting. Stretch the knees forward, just slightly hug your heels back. So kind of that push-pull of the feet, which elongates the front of the body, the ribs, the navel, those little abdominals, and then the heels draw back so we feel the firming of our glutes and our hamstrings. I think we'll take 3 more breaths. We'll be doing lots of core, so you're like, that's not for core, don't worry, you'll be fine. Then push down into your feet, float the pelvis off the block, slowly set the block away, vertebra at a time, roll on down, and then make your way to hands and knees in tabletop. So begin to navigate your cat and cow, so I don't want you to necessarily ruminate on formula. So if your inhales and your exhales follow the pattern of cat and cow, great. If you feel a little bit more like you do hip shifts or side bodies, or maybe even if your spine wants to go from child's pose to cobra, or anything along that spinal kind of investigation. So just feel good. Move with some purposefulness, but then also sometimes just spontaneity. Not necessarily trying to get super creative, but more just kind of checking in between some of those hidden pockets of the body that might be yet discovered today. 2 more. We'll do Ujjayi breath now. So hollow out the throat. Long equanimous inhale and exhale. And we'll flip our wrists forward, so stretch your wrists. Wrists either come forward, facing the top of the mat. If that's a little bit too intense, fingers can go out to the side. Obviously we want to have some sensation here, but we don't want sharp pain. Sometimes it's like a fine line between the two, but when in doubt, the breath will always be kind of that opinion. Breath pitches, it tells us we're in a place that really isn't where we need to be. Just a couple more breaths, feeling that wrist, the stress in a healthy form on the wrist. And then flip your palms back forward, come to neutral, take a cat and cow, smooth it out, drop the belly, and then around your spine. Just step your right foot forward, just a nice easy lunge. Again, we're just really kind of in a warm-up mentality, so let's shift forward and back between lunge and half splits. Or maybe it's quarter splits this morning. Eighth of a split. Just a couple more. So every time we contract one muscle group, the opposite group releases. So it's a great way to kind of quick flexibility. Okay, keep your left hand anchored, pick up the block in your right hand, and roll your right arm up and use the weight of the block, which is maybe not a whole lot, but still is weight. It's gonna let your right shoulder and your pec muscles stretch and possibly roll up a little bit further. Now, of course, I don't want you to feel like you're locking out at the elbow, so keep a little soft bend at the elbow. But let the weight of the block kind of give you a little bit more depth to your extended arm. 2 more breaths. Good. Lower that block down, come back to hands and knees tabletop. Just switch legs, left foot forward. Shifting forward and back. So as you contract the quads, hamstrings release, and vice versa. So it's kind of a more rapid way to flexibility for a companion than just static stretching. If you do that one more time, shift forward and back. Then we'll take that twist with the block from your left hand, right hand anchors, roll it open. Keep some softness in your elbow so that we don't just lay in the joints, but it goes to tissue. Okay, 2 more breaths. Maybe a little bit more opening, maybe less. And then slowly bring the block back down. Come back to hands and knees, tabletop. Take 1 more round of cat and cow, smooth things out. And then make your way into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And I'm inspired by all the cute puppies in the early camera scenes. But I'm secretly hoping that my downward dogs do not bark during class. So, pedal out the feet, maybe one at a time, maybe simultaneously. Checking back in with your breath and your bandhas, energetic walk, so we feel that we are supported. So as you navigate downward dog for the next couple of breaths, see if you can maybe find a place to commit to some stillness for a couple breaths as well. So not micromanaging, but just being. So take 2 breaths, just being in downward dog without any changes, just with the softness. Heels towards the mat. Then look to your thumbs, step forward. Now take both of your blocks. Depending on how happy your hamstrings are this early in the morning, some of you are at East Coast, maybe it's not really. But you can bring your blocks either on the lowest setting, the second setting, or the highest setting. So you're going to take your palms, flip them up, fingertips go in the direction towards the back of the mat. And you're going to lay your knuckles, tuck your hands all the way to the wrist to the block. So it's kind of like Padahastasana, feet to hands pose, only not quite to the feet. But I want you to make a fist. Pull your fingers in and then open them up. You do that a few more times, pull the fingers in and then open them up. Again, this is healthy stress. There's definitely some sensation. It should never be sharp pain. A lot of times stress is always a negative, but in this case, making 1 more fist. In this case, it's more about building strength. Okay, and then bring your hands to your blocks on the highest setting and float the heart. Ardha Uttanasana. Shift the weight into the balls of your feet. Take 2 breaths, get a nice long spine. Then take the blocks out to the side, bend your knees, stand all the way up, Urdhva Hastasana, upward salute. Bring the palms together, hands at the center of your heart. Anjali Mudra. And with your eyes closed, your gaze soft, I'm going to chant the invocation of the Upanishads, which is a very sacred philosophical series of texts. They deal a lot with our purposefulness or dharma. And this chant means, as teachers and students, may we practice together on all levels for the betterment of others, not just the self. May we practice without the ego, and practice off of the mat in the world. And in your home, you're welcome to listen or join with the Om one time at the end of the chant. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahano Punatu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinam Abhidamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we come to Samasthiti, same standing. Now take a moment just to get check back in, pelvic floor belly, no flare or tuck the tail, nice neutral spine. Inhale, raise your arms, Urdhva look up. Exhale, Uttanasana, fold it down towards the earth. Inhaling, Ardha, float the heart, look forward. Step the left foot back, left knee down, take a block. Bring it on its portrait setting. So we're talking like photocopier paper now. And you can put your right foot on the block. Okay, so stand your right foot down into the block. It doesn't matter if your foot's the same side as the block. You want to find those 4 corners, big and little toe mound, and heel corners on the block. So some of the toes, heel might actually peek forward or back. And push down into your right foot, and rise your arms up and come into a high lunge, Anjaneyasana, with a little altitude. So keep pushing down with your heel. I mean, the feet are contact on the block themselves, a little more action with heel. So you can feel the firming of where your hamstrings and your glutes attach. Okay, we'll stay here for 3 breaths. So I want you to feel that your fingers are coming from the block, not necessarily from the shoulder, but that whole lift and whole continuum. Then as you maybe expand the chest, little baby back, and exhale, left hand down, shift the weight into your left hand, float the right foot, pick up your block, and then you're gonna sweep your left foot towards the back of the mat. Right foot either floats or comes down into supported Vashisthasana. So let, again, the block just kind of give you a little bit more to work with, a little bit more weight, just to give you, the blocks that weigh a lot. Maybe you have one of those old school cork blocks that weigh more, but the brain is registering the weight, sending messages to the body to stabilize a little more. 2 more breaths. So take 1 more breath, look to the top of the mat, draw your right knee in towards your ribs, sweep your right foot forward, set your block back down, step it back to downward facing dog. Inhale, we'll come forward to high plank, floor supported plank, knees come down, of course. As you turn the sternum forward, chaturanga to the floor, exhale. Angle the toes, pubic bone, cobra. We'll do 3 cobras with the breath. Exhale, back down, 2 more times. Cobra is like a shot of espresso. Okay, gets my spine, handling energy going. 1 more time, cobra. And then exhale, bring it back down. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Inhale, take your left leg high, bend your left knee, roll your hip open. Lots of anchoring in your left hand. Bring your left knee towards your belly, 2 times in a circle each direction. And moving deep the femoral head, the socket of the hip joint. Then you're going to take your left leg up to 3-legged dog. Step your left foot between your hands, keep your back knee lifted. Right hand stands anchored, take your block in your left hand. So you've got high lunge with the left arm opening up through the weight of the block. So of course we'll go back one side and then go around the other way to get balance. So Lift the inner and outer right thigh on this lunge. We don't wrap the hip under. 2 more breaths. Then set your block back down. Step the right foot to meet the left. Ardha Uttanasana, float the heart. We're going to softly bend our knees on the exhale to rise to stand. Inhale, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, Samastiti, same standing pose. Second side. Rise, maybe look up. Fold down as you exhale, possibly look in. Float the heart, inhale, look forward. Right foot back, right knee down, grab your block, portrait setting. Step your left foot onto the block. Again, I don't want this like, really like deep lunge on the right side. I want you to still feel the integrity that there's some lift. Left foot anchors down, heel a little bit more active, feel the hamstrings, glutes fire. Rise your arms up. Low Anjaneyasana variation. So once again, think that the fingertips of your hands are connected to the bottom of your block. It's a continuum. You're all one kind of moving solid unit. Doing all of their autonomous things. 2 more breaths. Independence and yet the group efforts. Okay, place your right hand down, widen and shift the weight into your right hand. Float the left foot, pick up your block. And again, a Vashisthasana variation with the knee down. Left leg can float, or it can be on the mat. Knowing what I was going to teach today, I didn't use my heavy core blocks. Call me lazy. 2 more breaths. But a little bit of weight's enough. Draw your left knee in towards your ribs, sweep your left foot forward, set your block off to the side, step it back to your downward facing dog. Inhale, come forward plank. Chaturanga to the floor, exhale. Okay, we're going to take a block for our low back this time. And I'm going to recommend, I guess it's very Halloween appropriate, that you spider your fingertips onto the block, doming up your hands. So we'll take a very, a slightly unpleasant locust pose. As you inhale, push your pubic bone down, lift your chest up. Let's keep the feet down for now and lift the block off your low back. All right, take 5 more breaths. And just keep the feet down. So it's more of a locust V variation where the feet stay down, which this early in our practice might feel like a really kind thing. Take 1 more breath, lift it up, and then exhale, slowly bring it down. Set your block off to the side. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha. Inhale your right leg high, bend and roll it open. Anchor your right hand more. Hop a big circle each direction with your knee to your belly. Move it around. Bringing that hydration to the hip joint. Then we'll come back to 3-legged. Step your right foot between your hands. Left hand stays planted. Blocking your right hand. Roll it open. Now you can often pivot the back leg under so much to really lift it. And lift the inner and outer left thigh up and back as you have the block in your right hand. And just gaze longingly up that. So, Parivrita Anjaneyasana, twisted lunge. All right, we'll take 2 more breaths. And then exhale, lower your right hand down, stepping forward. Inhale, hands to the shins, float up. This time, bend your knees, pick up a block. You're going to stand all the way up. I'm going to come into Utkatasana. So chair pose or fierce pose. So let's take the block this time. We've got it in the landscape setting. Palms will come to it, then elbows go out for a moment and wrap your elbows in. Squeeze the block and extend your arms. So I like to pretend that it's like a little accordion. I can just smash it. I've yet to smash it, but think about that, hugging inward, squeezing the block, bandhas are turned on, shifting the weight back. Fierce pose, 3 more breaths. Utkatasana, AKA fierce powerful pose. Take another breath. Now set that block down on its portrait setting. So now you're going to step your right foot onto that block again, this time back knee lifts, high lunge. Unless, of course, want to feel stabilized here enough. But I encourage you to sweep the left leg back. Either bring the knee down or lift the back knee up actively. Coming into variation of crescent lunge. Left arm under eagle. So we're going to use a little bit of shoulder mobility and stretching just to counter the weight and the kind of load that the blocks are going to give our shoulders, which might be minimal to some of us, and it might be kind of just a new experience for others. Okay, 3 more breaths, fingers can go up, start to take a little baby back bend, perhaps. Okay, we're going to set this up for vinyasa-based again, side plank. So left hand comes down. See if you can pick the block up. The right foot doesn't touch the floor. Knee can stay down on the left side or straight line vinyasa-based. So shift the weight into your left hand, pick up the block in your right. Oh, maybe high or low side plank pose. Now, the block in your right hand this time can go up and overhead, which will create a little bit different demand. Might be feeling this a little bit more on your serratus anterior, little muscle that stabilize your shoulder when you reach your hands up overhead, like right now. So 2 or 3 more breaths. Again, you can come out sooner if you need to. Same way, we're going to step the right foot forward, set the block down, so right knee in towards your ribs, look to the top of the mat, slowly kiss your mat with the right foot, set the block down. Oh, triumphantly step back to dog. Inhale the plank, chaturanga to the floor. Exhale. Okay, you're gonna take your block. Maybe take the other block. We don't want block to feel like it's not used as much as the other. They get jealous. But you'll take a block, you'll have it again, that landscape setting. You're gonna dome it up with the low back with your fingertips. Now the goal, objective, is going to lift that block up like we're coming into bow pose, but you're going to tap your block and release the legs. So then tap the block, release the legs. Okay? So pivot bone down, both ends lift, 5 taps, heel in, tap the block, extend it back. Tap for 4, extend it back. Tap 3, back. Tap 2. Good news, bad news. On the last tap, we're going to hold it, hold. See if you can slide that block inside of your ankles or your feet. Go pose with I want joy. Take 1 more breath. Oh, exhale. Grab your block. Set it down to the side. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha. Or the Sanskrit word is dukkha, suffering. So dukkha dhanurasana, the suffering bow. Let's inhale, take your left leg high. Bend that left knee, roll it open again. This time stay, anchor your left hand and squeeze your left heel towards your right glute. So be really active in your hamstrings, be nice and strong. Then extend your left leg high, left knee, left shoulder. Try to pause there, shoulders come over the wrists. Take another breath. Then you step your left foot forward and set up for warrior 2. So set up warrior 2. So left foot forward, warrior baby. Come on up with your arms parallel. Carving that energy through the mat with your feet. And then just feeling, the familiarity of the pose, but then the newness of how it is today, this morning. All the different day-to-day actions. Rest, referral from yesterday's activities, etc. 2 more breaths, feeling how it impacts your postures, your asanas today. So you're going to take your left hand, the block's going to come, I want to say on the second height, outside of your left ankle region. So it's like side angle pose, but you're going to draw your left knee to your left elbow shoulder region. If you say this is terrible, then you're right. If you'd rather do side angle pose without lifting your left foot, of course you can. Okay, 3 more breaths. Who am I? Do the yoga place this morning. 2 more breaths. If you have the foot lifted, see if you can just place it back down where it was. Set your block off to the side, reverse warrior. Viparita, Virabhadrasana. Arch it back, one more inhale, exhale, step forward, hands to the earth, fold it forward. Inhale, float the heart. Exhale, fold down, grab a block. We're going to come into Utkatasana again. This time, okay, the block's going to be in that landscape setting. Elbows out at first, then triceps hug in. But I want you to take your block up overhead and hold it behind the base of your skull. And now squeeze it. Squeeze it, squeeze it, squeeze it. So right below the occipital ridge, the cave of the neck. Shift the hips back, sit a little bit lower. Sometimes we forget about what we're doing when we've got all these pieces and parts. So 2 more breaths. So the main part of this is our chair. Okay, stand up, reach the block up. Exhale, set it down and fold. So now you're going to step your right foot back, depending on what block you grab. You're going to set it on that portrait. Left foot on the block. Right knee lifts, or, of course, can stay down. High or crescent lunge. Reach your arms up. So as you anchor into your left foot, again, you get to feel that kind of continuum, that everything is working together, that the block is just another extension of you. So we don't feel like it's foreign, we don't feel like the reactivity is one where it isn't synchronized and has a little bit more of that kind of harmonious action. Set up for Vashisthasana, or side plank pose with either the knee up or knee down. See if you can make that switch though without bringing your left foot down, like the Max Hot Lob. Right hand down. Turn all 10 toes, pick up the block. Left foot on top of right, Vashisthasana. Be very mindful that the right hand is active, pushing down, but you feel that lift out of the shoulder versus any collapse. 2 more breaths. Look to the top of the mat. Bend your left knee in towards your ribs. Then slowly step, hover, soften, left foot forward. Block off to the side, step it back to dog. Okay, you come forward to plank. And then lower all the way down to your belly. Okay, so you want to make sure that you clear the deck. You don't have a lot of stuff around you. It's free to be fairly generous with our movement of the block around us in locust pose and Shalabhasana. If your neck, the trapezius muscles, your levators, your neck is just really tight and it won't shut off, meaning it does all the things, then I want you to keep the block at your low back still. Otherwise, what we'll do, you can stay down if that feels a little bit more useful for you, or if you can come up. We're just going to take our block around 5 times each direction and then reverse it. Okay, so again, if overhead with the block, just strengthen that. Keep the block at your low back. Okay, so start with the block in front of you. Make sure you root the pubic bone down actively. It's going to help elongate lumbar spine, support you. Shalabhasana, 5 times each direction, or a very dukkha locust, suffering locust. Make sure you switch by the other direction. Grunting is part of this practice. It's like a kriya. Good, come back. Oh, lower down. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So, make sure I turn around here. See you all 3-legged dog, right leg high, right knee, right shoulder. Oh, yeah, this is the prep. Now you're like, I get it. Right foot steps forward, warrior 2. So knee to shoulder is kind of that preview of our side angle pose block friend. You might call him friend. So come deep into your Vera B. Back to that equanimous breath. Block now to the outer right ankle bone. So again, I'm going to suggest it on the second height. Highest one is just really at the tippy. Lowest one, I mean, might work for your body. If you have proportions that works for. Otherwise, hand onto your block outside of the right foot, right ankle, and then right knee to right shoulder. Now, the left hand can go up if you want, or you can place your left hand up to your hip. I told you we do a little more core. This might be it. 2 more breaths. Let's see if you can put your right foot back down where it landed, before where it was before. Come into reverse warrior. Reverse warrior. Such a fan favorite pose. Windmill your hands down, and you're gonna step into the top of the mat. Okay. So I'm going to give you a couple options. Option 1 is you're just going to stand on the floor. So you're going to be working on, I guess I should probably tell you what we're doing first before you kind of choose. Because usually the type A's, you immediately want to go, what's the hardest variation? And the B's are like, oh, no thanks. So we're going to work on kind of a dancer pose, but it's not going to be with any bind. It's going to be with a blowout. It's going to be very dukkha oriented. So option 1, we will be starting with the left foot. Going to lift up and tap the block back, then bring it forward. Not that fast, because I wouldn't want to make it that enjoyable. Option 2 is you stand your left foot on the block, which is obviously going to give you different sensory of the foot. The obviously challenge of the height, and then you just kind of have to make sure your stabilizers in your lateral hip turn on a little bit more, big toe mound stays anchoring a little bit more, so that we're not going to roll the ankle out or in, and that we can feel nice and stable. So again, if it's asmita ego is like, oh, I gotta get in the block, but you know energetically that doesn't make sense, stay on the floor. But left foot's going to ground down. So we'll start with, I'm going to pull back a little bit. Left foot onto the block, 4 corners, or on the mat. Then bend your right knee. Take the block in front of you. Squeeze the block. Elbows out at it first. Wrap triceps in. Tap your block into your right knee. Inhale, reach your block up overhead. Then start to sweep your block back behind you. And imagine you're going to tap the block with your toes. And we're going to come back through. Block to knee. Okay, up and back. Come back through. 3 more on this side. Take it up and back. Oh, you're so close. I'm sure you are. You're like, yes, I can tell. I can sense that block. My toes were so close. 2 more times, up and back. Back bend. Come back and through. Of course, you know with me, there is a and then. So and then hold it here. Back bend, stay for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come back through. Cap. Oh. Is your other side jealous? Your body's like, please, I would love to do that myself. So just step on the right foot. So 5 times settle back and forth with a hold on the last one. So this is very active flexibility. Nothing's binding, it's not passive, there's no referral. It's all an active engagement. So ground down to the right foot, whether it's on the block or the floor. Block landscape setting, elbows up, wrap it in, hand down in front of you, lift the left knee. Tap the block, reach up overhead, come back. Oh, dancer pose with attitude. Inhale, come back through. Tap the block on the knee. And bring the block on the knee to each other versus just bring the block to the leg. Or vice versa. So they kind of have this, they have a partnership. Obviously, We can always have one do more, but how fun is that? No fun. Okay, one more time, we're gonna come back through, but we're gonna hold. So in the dancer pose of suffering, Dukkha Natarajasana. 2 more breaths. Oh, then inhale, come back through, tap your block, come on down. And Samasthiti. Take just a few breaths. Samasthiti. Let me grab my coffee. Bad yogi, I know. I should be drinking coconut water, kombucha, but it is caffeine. I'm in Seattle, of course. It's coffee. 3 more breaths. Okay, exhale 2. Good. Inhale, raise your arms, look up. And exhale, fold it down. Hand side to the shins. You're gonna step your left foot back, left knee down, then spiral left foot over and set your block to the back of your mat, setting up for a variation of side plank pose. So now I'm putting my block, landscape setting. So it's the wide landscape. So if you would like to take your knee down here, or keep your knee down here, you're very much welcome to. So what you want to do is now put your right foot on the block. You're going to need a little bit of ankle flexibility. So you're going to laterally turn your right pinky toe, right lateral ankle down, and kind of see if you can flatten your foot on the block. So in and of itself, when you do that, it will inspire your adductors. Well, actually, kind of pretty much the periphery of the right upper leg. But if you push down, you kind of feel some squeezing in. You'll turn on the adductors. So you're going to push down into your block, possibly lift your left knee, maybe float it, maybe bend it, maybe keep the left knee down. If I want you to keep pushing onto that block. Pushing onto that block. Okay, 3 more breaths. Awesome, 2 more breaths. Set your block back down. Now take your right foot, scoop the block towards you, set your right foot down onto the block. Then you're gonna take the block in your left hand. I'm not mirroring you, can't think that intelligently this early in the morning, I'm sorry. We're gonna do gate pose with a block, Parigasana. So blocks in your left hand. Now as you roll it open, it's gonna give you a little bit more of a stretch. The weight on that side, especially again, serratus, which is kind of a recovery pose from that side plank we just did. Okay, and if you want to, you can even bend that elbow and just let the block hang a little bit differently. Couple more breaths. Now we're going to take the block in your left hand, set it to the back of your mat, landscape setting. Right knee down, left foot on the block. Lateral left foot turns down. See if you can push down into the block. So of course, if you can't get the foot anchored, it will admittedly be harder to lift the bottom leg. But I don't even want you to worry about that. You can still get a lot of intensity by pushing the block down. Imagine you're hugging it back towards you. Okay, right hand can stay down where it is exactly. It doesn't have to change. You might lift the right knee. You might float the leg. Maybe. So many maybes. 3 more breaths. Oh, good morning, core. Then slowly lower your right knee down. Take your left foot, bring the block to you, and then pick it up in your right hand. Left foot stays anchored. Gate pose, Parigasana. Left fingertips down, take the block over in your right hand. Please just relax here. You don't need to see what the block is doing. You don't need to look at it. It's on its own, it's fine. It has no need for you to see it. 2 more breaths. Good. Then slowly set your block down. Okay, so you come to your seat. And we're gonna work a little bit more of hip flexor, deep abdominal core strength. Just what the body needs. So we're gonna start with our block on its lowest setting. So again, before you know necessarily what we're gonna do, I will say that if the block is closer towards your pelvic floor, it will be harder. If your block is further away from you, it will be a little bit more approachable, but I don't want that to dictate you. So what we're gonna start with is, I'm gonna bring the block a little bit closer towards my inner calves. So I'll show you from the front and then I'm gonna come to the side. So I'm not lifting my hips up. Don't worry, it's not an L sit. So if you were like ready to shut the camera off, you can stay. It's not an L sit. But you're gonna start with your hands either by your hips or hands at heart center. I'm gonna start with my hands by my hips. You're gonna lift the feet up, tap your feet, and lower down. So from the side, it might look a little bit like that. So we don't want to be like, oh yeah, that's so easy. I mean, it's not that easy, but it's easier. So we're gonna do 5 on the lowest setting. We're gonna do 4 on the second setting, and then we'll do 1,000,000 on the third. No, we'll go 5, 4, 3. Okay. So start with the block on its lowest setting. Just to be kind of mean to myself, and bring the block close to pelvic floor. Okay. Hands can stay by the hips. Inhale, lift your feet up, tap the feet over, and then set it back down. 1, lift up, tap. 2, lift up, tap. 3, lift 4, tap 5. You got that. Turn up the height. Woo! Play dominoes, it's a fun game. So we're gonna do 4 times. Okay, take a breath. Lift the spine up, tap 1, tap 2, tap 3, tap 4. I see flying feet on camera, I love it. Okay, turn it up one more time. All right, I'm gonna say 3, but if you're like, I wanna do 5, I'm gonna do a whole bunch. If you're like, I'm not even gonna do any, or 1, your practice. Okay, so we'll take the next few breaths, just kind of navigating this. Keep the spine lifted. 1, I'm gonna do 5, 2, 3, oh my gosh, 4, and tap, oh, 5. Nice work. Back to our supported bridge. So take the block, bring it underneath your pelvis. This is our recovery. So stretch your hip flexors. Stretch them out. Stretch those frontal hip quadriceps. I mean, sometimes that hip flexor work goes right to Crampville, the town where cramps live, quadricep cramps. Because as soon as your quadriceps cramp, when you're lifting your knee towards you, it means your hip flexors have fully fatigued and their synergist muscles are help out. So they're cramping. So like, this isn't really my job, but I'm trying, body. So it's just knowledge. It just helps teach us. When we start to build hip flexor strength, those cramps come in later and later. All right, remove the block. Now it's not really a modification, it's actually a space saver. It gives you a lot more space. Set up both your blocks. You're gonna do bridge on a block, or bridge on block. So if both feet come onto your blocks, scoot your heels in. Arms can be by the side normally. And now as you push down and come into your bridge, you may find like, wow, I have more space. It gives me more depth. So not necessarily a modifier, could be an amplifier. Frees up space in lumbar, but really generous around your thoracic. Those of you whose shoulders maybe feel nice and prepped, we did some pectoral stretching, we did some mobility work. Wheel from here is great, but keep pushing down, Urdhva Dhanurasana, upward bow, I should say. Flip your fingers so that they go the direction towards the top of the mat, push down, and see if you can pop up into this majestic Urdhva Dhi. Okay, so stay there as long as it feels really energetically appropriate. Coming down anytime you want to. Whatever back bend, heart opener you chose to do. It's kind of fun. You just take your feet inside the blocks and whisk them away. Send them off onto their side. So drop all these towards your chest and do that kind of free-for-all movement again. Now rock a little bit side to side so we get to kind of roll over those erector spinae, spinal muscles. You get to feel that massage around the lumbaral, sacral region where back bends kind of tend to initiate, right? When we think about the pelvis and the spine working together for back bends. And we're gonna do a little bit of a hip opener. Actually, it's not a little bit, it's kind of a big bit. So come up to a seat. Okay. You know me. We spent 15 minutes together, quality time. Options. Option 1. I'm gonna start with the left ankle over right in a seated figure 4. So I'm gonna take my block in the right side of my mat on portrait setting, place my right foot onto the block, scoot my hip in, and I'm gonna cross my left ankle over my right thigh. Now, if the block is too high, doesn't feel like you can bring that ankle over, then come onto your back. Do figure 4 on your back. If your wrists are fatiguing as well, you turn the fingertips out towards the side of the mat, towards the back, towards the front, just kind of mix it up. This again, it's just a way that, I don't want to say deeper is better, but maybe depth is where you are seeking. This is how blocks can amplify our practices versus that old adage, like, if you need to modify. 5 more breaths. I think as more bodies come to yoga and we learn more about the bodies themselves, like it just opens up a whole new vast place to go. So shift back and you'll switch. Block underneath the left foot this time. So I think it's great that we're learning more about the body. We've got more bodies coming to yoga. So continued source of ideas, learning, knowledge. So just take a few more moments to get yourself as sama, the same on the right and the left. So you need to hold one side a little longer. To make it more balanced, do so. You might not know that, but it's not like a switch where it goes, okay, done, we're balanced, but thinking about maybe when you feel a little bit closer, they'll come off. And then either both knees can come in towards your outer rib cage, toes touching, or Ananda Balasana, happy baby with the feet towards the ceiling. Could be the next indicated step. And if you want to straighten one leg at a time, powerful straddle reclined, just experiment with what that does for you. In some cases, it does not do for you. So feel a little bit of playfulness, one side to the next. So one of my favorite ways to take a supine twist is with a block to the inner thighs, which is really amazing for people with sacroiliac dysfunction or overstretched ligaments at the SI joint. But it also just feels really good in all bodies. So I encourage you, you don't have to, but take a block, bring it to your inner knees, then roll off to one side. You might need to play around with where the block sits. Could be a little closer to the pelvic floor, a little bit closer towards the knees, but stack and then open up the opposite arm away. So feel your supine twist with the block broadening you, giving you some space at the sacroiliac joint region. other side. So when you sweep over and take that block with you, don't be surprised you've got to move that block a little bit differently, not just because it got lost in travel, but because the right and the left side always have those little idiosyncrasies that are nuanced and different. So when you're ready to come back to neutral, we'll take a few minutes in Shavasana, but I do want to encourage you that if you think that maybe 10 or so breaths in Viparita Karani, lies at the wall with your pelvis on a block, which is a very restorative kind of rest and digest friendly pose, that you spend a little bit of time, possibly with Viparita Karani, or go straight to Shavasana. Or of course, supported fish pose if you're comfortable with setting your block up around the scapula, shoulder blade region, and giving yourself that open chest support. But coming into your Shavasana when you feel the time for you to come into it is there. Start to slowly deepen your breath. Let the puppies wake you up from Shavasana, or the movements that are subtle and small, fingers and toes. Slowly make your way off to your right side and slowly make your way up to a comfortable seat. Maybe sit on block. Maybe you sit with your ankles crossed, Sukhasana. But just any stable and steady seat. Letting your palms drift to the center of your sternum, Anjali Mudra, the gesture of offering, the gesture of gratitude. And as you bow your forehead to your fingertips, bow in honor of the teacher that lies within your heart and your own soul. Om Balo Sadguru Maharaja Ki. And thank you so much for sharing your practice. Namaste. All right, namaste. I saw big fluffy tails heading your way. I'm like, there goes Shavasana. Over. I know.
Oh my gosh. So such a creative class. I'm going to be taking a lot of that and using it for my students. I'll give you credit, of course, but it's just so creative. And it's so nice to see the blocks being used to enhance and intensify instead of just being there to be used as a way to, simplify and make it easier.
I appreciate you saying that, really and truly. It's all, I mean, yoga is unification. So I'm happy to unify with whomever's students, whomever's bodies. But yes, let's ditch the old, like, if you need to modify kind of mentality.
So nice. And you can see I've posted, there's a few like thank yous there from Masa and Judy and Marjorie. And if you'd like to unmute yourself and say anything, as long as it's positive, to Lara.
Well, I don't know. Constructive is fine.
Yes.
Don't know how to type anything, but that was blocking awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, I know. Do you
Or
feel
should I
like
say
you went
blocking possum? Blocking possum.
do you feel like you went to a party? Like party
Yes. My core did anyway. My core
Yes.
did.
Oh, repost donation link.
Oh, I just did. I'll do it again.
Okay.
Such a great charity, by the way. So amazing, so inspiring. So,
Yeah, I'm personally hoping she couldn't do it this next year because there's so much, uncertainty, but I'm really hoping in 2023 to go
wow.
over there and do like hands-on work. Tiffany takes a group every year. Well, when there isn't a global pandemic.
Right.
So I'm really hoping to be there in person 2023.
Oh, that's very inspiring. Oh, look, even more love there. Enjoyed your class. Thank you so much. I recommend that maybe on your story, you post something just that mentions the link again, because a lot of times people will actually still donate to the charity, even if they have not been to the class or whether they come later and look at it on YouTube. So
Will do. Okay.
All right. Well, I hope you all have an amazing day and wonderful weekend.
Oh, it's
And
still
Laura,
stay
dry. Still not showing. Are you posting it to everyone? Yes. Let me
I
try
just
it
put
again.
there.
Let me try this again. Everyone in meeting. Yes.
I just did it too.
Okay.
Oh,
did that work?
Now you have it twice.
Yeah.
Or 5 times, however.
It was giving it to people in the waiting room that time. So for some reason. So yeah. So people in the next meeting might get to see it.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Right. Well, stay dry.
Yeah. All right. You too.
And thank you again, because that really was very creative, and you can bet that maybe I'll post something showing you about how I used it, because that was just a lot of fun.
Thank you. I'm
Have
glad.
a great day. Bye.
Bye.